starting quite this second, but I'm just going to stand up here and let you know that we're going to be live streaming soon, and Jared's going to give me a vocal something because I can't see you anymore with this. Blinded by the light. Yeah. There'll be a concert later. Okay. So Jared, give me a 3, 2, 1 or something like that, or a 1, a 2, a 1, 2. No, just kidding. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 5th and final evening of the 2022 Wild Wonder Nature Journaling Conference, and this very, very special event, a keynote address by John Muir Laws. We tonight are coming, and we have a live audience here as well as our friends at home. This event is being live streamed to lots and lots of people all around the world, and we're so happy to have all of you here in the house, you here at home. So thank you so much for joining us for this special evening. My name is Beth Kelly Galogally, and I'm the founding director of the Wild Wonder Nature Journaling Conference. And this is our 4th year. It is a... Oh, thank you. Thank you. It is a total joy for me to see people come together around this beautiful practice of nature journaling. And I especially get a buzz from seeing people connect with each other, especially in person, which was my goal for this event originally, and our first one was in person. And then because of the pandemic, they've been online. And as it turns out, online works for a lot of people too. So moving forward, we will definitely be having online events as well as in-person events, because both of them are excellent and both of them connect people to each other. And so it's a great joy for me to see all of the friendships, mentorships, and joy that have come out of this event. So I just want to thank all of you in this room who've helped make that possible, and all of you, our friends at home who've made that possible. So thank you so much. So this evening, in addition to just welcoming you all here and telling you how very happy I am to see you here and those of you at home, I am here also to have the pleasure of introducing to you Dr. Carol Tang. Dr. Carol Tang is the executive director of the Children's Creativity Museum in the Yerba Buena Cultural District of San Francisco. And I've had the pleasure of working with her on Jack's Nature Journal Connection video series, of which they are a co-sponsor. And she has just been a total joy and 100% supportive of that project. And we are so, so grateful to her. It would not have happened without you and your support, Carol. So thank you so much. Carol says that one of the things she likes best about her job is watching kids interacting with the exhibits at the museum and discovering their hidden talents. Before coming to the museum in 2015, she was a program officer at a family foundation leading strategic grant making for youth programming. She was a director for the National Coalition for Science After School and head of exhibitions and museum programming for the reopening of the California Academy of Sciences. She serves on the board of directors of the American Association of Children's Museums, the How Kids Learn Foundation, and the Yerba Buena Gardens Conservancy. She was formerly a paleontology professor and the author of several articles, including for the Encyclopedia Britannica Online. She says she was drawn to paleontology because it is like being a time traveler and mystery detective, using fossils and rocks as clues to solve mysteries about life in the past. Carol has been an active and celebrated member of the American Association of University Women, and she has helped design exhibits for the California Academy of Scientists and even deployed science programs in Golden Gate Park to help the broader community understand the impact of climate change on California. Among her many accolades, Carol was named one of California's top leading women in STEM by the California STEM Learning Network. In short, Carol is awesome. And we are so thrilled to have her here tonight. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Carol Tang.
Hello, everyone. I'm really honored to have been asked to introduce you to the Jack Laws that I know. I've known him for over 20 years, the turn of the century, as the young people like to say these days. As you heard, the Children's Creativity Museum co-sponsor the Nature Journal Connection, and Beth and Jack had put out a Facebook post, and many of you are on that Facebook page. And I looked at it, I knew that our museum, which has a mission to nurture creativity and collaboration in all children and families, that this was something we had to support. Our museum donated all of our time, and our very talented video producer and educator, Mario Jerez, has been working really closely with Beth and Jack to make this series possible. As you know, there's been tens of thousands of views, especially during the pandemic. I think it was really important for people to be connected with each other and to connected with nature. So that was quite an honor to work on that project. But again, my friendship with Jack has gone back for many decades. And so again, I want to talk a little bit about that Jack that I knew, Kelly Nelson, who is here today. Kelly and I and Jack and many other talented educators really saw the environmental education field change quite a bit in the last 20 years. So I wanted to share a few of those things with you. So before citizen science actually got into the Oxford Dictionary, Jack Laws was doing citizen science. He was helping adults and children take data at Mountain Lake in San Francisco and try to understand the patterns so that scientists could have a record of the climate change, environmental change, and restoration that was happening in that area. But one of the things that I thought Jack did really well was he didn't just focus on the numbers, the quantitative data. He also knew that qualitative data and observations were really key. That's something that the citizen science community has learned and embraced as well. Secondly, before we had a lot of real good practices for children with dyslexia or other learning challenges, Jack knew that we needed to find a way to engage all children and adults, no matter what their learning abilities or, quote, disabilities were. All people have differences in the way they learn and process, and he knew that we had to find ways that everybody could be engaged. Next, before mindfulness took over everything and became a moneymaker, he knew that mindfulness meant something real in nature, no matter what you called it. Being in nature, being surrounded by nature, engaging all your senses, feeling your own heartbeat, as well as the heartbeat of the world around you. He knew that was important. And that was, again, before we all clung onto this term of mindfulness. Another one that he was ahead of the game on, before Richard Louv and others have popularized the term nature deficit disorder. Again, Jack knew that that was something that kids needed. Any reason he could get to get adults and children out into nature, no matter what the reason, what the excuse was, being outside, he knew mattered. And again, we didn't know what that was. We didn't have the studies on how being away from nature and grass and sky and water affect people, but he knew that himself, and he did something to try to help create those situations where people could heal and grow from their experiences in nature. Before we had the science, the neuroscience of journaling, Jack was doing journaling. Now we know that using a pencil on paper, that creates neurological connections that being on a screen doesn't. Writing, longhand, cursive, coloring, holding something in your hand, that physical feeling of paper and pressure, that actually does something in your brain that's different than what you do on the screen or sitting and listening to other people. Again, we didn't know the neurosciences 20 years ago, but Jack was doing it already. Another one is this idea about journaling itself. There's been a lot of studies now where there's actually real research out there about how journaling, whether it's gratitude journaling, whether it's morning pages, sitting there and focusing on one thing, drawing and writing, being in touch with your own mind, with the world around you, with the turmoil and the calm within you, that actually does something for people. There's studies that show if you write down at the end of the day what you're going to do the next day, you sleep better. So again, we have all the science now, but the 20 years that I've known Jack, those studies have come out. But before there were studies, he knew intuitively that's what people needed. And he was doing it back then. So I have the really bittersweet honor of having sent him on a transition between being a professional environmental educator, a full-time employed environmental educator. It's not that easy to get those positions. He gave it all up. He asked me to write him a letter of recommendation so he could leave that full-time job, that manager of environmental education, so that he could go and start over again and find that passion in him of being an artist and scientist and conservationist. And he wanted to go to graduate school to the Santa Cruz program for botanical drawing. And I am, again, sad and mad and happy and honored to have allowed him to do that, because he started something that you're all a part of. The last thing I want to say, though, is what he's also done in the last 20 years. Again, I mentioned Kelly. Kelly and I used to do his receipts for him and manage his budget. That's not what he was good at. Trying to collect receipts and expenses at the end of the day was really hard. But he surrounded himself with people who believed in him and wanted him to spend his time doing the things that were important. The rest of us, I'm terrible at it too, but it was worth my time to organize his receipts and his budget at the end of the year to free him up to do the kinds of things he wanted to do and that only he can do. But today he has all of you to do that. In the 20 years, he's known and grown, and he still continues to attract those of you who help him, Beth for one. But all of you at home and here in person, you enable Jack to be the best that he can be, and then he, in turn, inspires us to be the best that we can be. So in summary, in 20 years, Jack in many ways is the same person, and the world around him has changed. On the other hand, he's deepened the kinds of commitments that he's had. It's not just about his own personal experience or his own personal gratification, although that's really important. I think that's still the core and the source of his strength, the source of his energy, and his generosity, is that he enjoys working with us. He enjoys being in nature. He enjoys journaling. But more than that, he really believes that all of us have the power to carry that on. He doesn't hold things selfishly. He doesn't hold things in order to monetize them. He believes in sharing. So in the last 20 years, before there was social media, before there was the perfect post, he knew the power of sharing an image, the power of a photograph, of a drawing, a poem, a few words, sharing that among friends and a network. He has always known the power of that before there was social media and the tech worlds that we live in today. So all of us have a duty and an obligation to carry on what he has given all of us. He has allowed us to find our own voice, to find our own peace with the world, and also create our own network. And so I take that very seriously, that he has given us a gift, but we need to give back to him, and we need to give back to the next generation as well. So with that, thank you so much. And with that, I turn it over to John Muir Laws.
Thank you so much. Hey, thank you all so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being there. And I'm so excited to be with you tonight. When in doubt, just take a few breaths and I feel so grateful. I feel so grateful to this community, to you, to you, to you, to you. We've just experienced this Wild Wonder Nature Journal Connection conference together. And it has been beautiful. And behind that is just incredible, deep, hard work. Hundreds of hours. I mean, before the event went live, and then more after that, to make this happen and to inspire people. I'd like to actually maybe just start by recognizing some of the crew. So you have to push your right buttons or not, or push that button. Yeah. So this was sort of the core team, and behind this crew who are just making sort of the primary logistics crew. Beth, how many volunteers did we have? 28 volunteers. Just we're not going to list their names because not everybody wanted their names listed, and then if we listed some of them, that'd be kind of weird. So we're not going to list their names, but we love you. We really, really do. And it was beautiful what we did. We had more than 30 instructors teaching their best material, and openly, generously sharing that with all of us. It was. At the end of the day, my cheeks kind of hurt from smiling so much. And then we'd kind of go into these late night sessions and not want to end there, and then meet early the next morning. That was beautiful. That was absolutely beautiful and inspiring. And what that is part of the crest of a wave of this larger nature journaling movement that is growing. And I think I hear rain on the roof. Is that? All right, see, this moment just got all the better, right? For folks who don't know, we're having a drought over here, and so it's like, what's that? Is that traffic? No, it's rain. So, I am so deeply grateful to you folks. So anybody in this room who was involved either in the core team or as a volunteer or as an instructor, please stand up. Please stand up. This conference was actually the brainchild of Beth. Beth has been an incredible enabler of good things, and together you have been able to make something happen that is so far beyond what I could have possibly imagined. I want to give you folks a little bit of my background, and so that's where I come from. So that's Robert Laws, that's Beatrice Chalice Laws, and they inspired me with a love of nature from a very, very early age. I was really, really lucky that they brought me out into wild places and spaces and let me just geek out and explore, and that fascination has never left me. My dad was our family, he's got his binoculars on, right? So he was our family bird watcher, and my mom was our botanist. And so between the two of them, all of our family adventures were sort of infused with this love of wildness. And as I got older, that never left. It just grew and grew and grew. For me, because little Jack here is dyslexic, well, actually big Jack over there still dyslexic, right? So this little notepad that I've got and drawing pictures was my safety, my way of connecting with the world around me where I couldn't make spelling mistakes. And that just got me making more sketches and more sketches and more sketches. As I fell more in love with the natural world, my pile of journals around me grew. And I started to discover that there were other people around me who also passionately loved the natural world, and also could connect with the world through this means of through art, through drawing, through sketching, through asking questions, writing down our possible explanations, and just deep geeking out. And so that trajectory, it was partly sort of driven by me and the luck of having them as parents. But also along my path, I had the good fortune of meeting a number of people who stood up and held out their hand and helped me along the way. So I am where I am because other people helped me. And there are many, but there are a few who are in the room tonight who I wanted just to sort of give as examples of what happened. And so one is sitting back here somewhere, but the lights are in my eyes. Kurt Rademacher was one of my college professors at Berkeley. And he's the naturalist's naturalist. And I took this class from him on the ecology of the San Francisco Bay Area, and just discovered this grown-up who had the fire, right? And I thought, like, I want to be you when I grow up. And he took me under his wing and mentored me. Invited me to lead trips with him, and sort of helped me sort of see what a naturalist could be. And it was amazing. And that sort of helped project me on the trajectory that I'm still on today. So Kurt, thank you so much. That brought me into sort of deep into environmental education. And as Carol was saying, at some point I realized, you know what? I think I need to leave this world and run up to the Sierra Nevada and start painting wildflowers, because I had this dream about, I've always wanted to make this field guide about the Sierra Nevada. And there are two things. It was actually as I had an opportunity to take care of my grandmother, Beatrice Chalice, as she was dying. And as I was there at her bedside, I had a lot of time to think about what it is that I want my life to be about when I'm in her place. And I realized there are two critical things. One is that I wanted to make this field guide. And I'll tell you about the second in a moment. And after she died, I returned to the San Francisco Bay Area and sat down with Carol. And you helped sort of launch me on my way. You made me an associate of the Academy so I could still use all those incredible resources as a scientist, and sent me off into the mountains with my granola bars. And I've never looked back. So thank you. But then there I was up in the mountains. And it turns out that if you have this plan of, I'm going to run up to the Sierra Nevada and I am going to be painting flowers for the next several years, somehow you have to buy more granola bars. And this was a challenge, and I was running out of opportunities. I had the opportunity to talk to Malcolm Margolin, the publisher of Heyday Books. And he had this little round table outside his office. And he would, if you went there to meet with him, he'd kind of meet you at the little round table. You'd sit at the round table and he'd look across from you, and you would discuss whatever was on your mind, and eventually you'd go to the business of the day. And I laid out in front of him a bunch of the drawings that I had already done, and my plan and my vision. And he got it. And he didn't just get it, because I'd actually taken it to a number of different publishers. And I said, like, this is what I want to do. And some of them said, that's really neat, but we want you to turn it into a different project. Others said, yes, we'll do that, and we'd like to publish that. And then I thought, like, oh yeah, then you get an advance, which turns out is a few $1,000s, and that's not going to cover you for the next 7 years. But Malcolm was different. He looked at this, and he put himself in my shoes. And he said, you're going to have to find some way to live for the next 7 years. How's that going to happen? And I said, I don't know. And he said, I've never done this before. He said, but I have an idea. And he said, what if, I can give you an advance, but that's going to cover your first couple of months. He said, but what if instead of giving my advance to you, what if I give it to my grant writer? And then I stand behind that grant writer and go in and make a pitch to my best sources to try to get you funding so that you can do this project without worry. And I mean, it took incredible trust. He trusted me enough that I was going to follow through with that. And I had to trust him that he was really going to go to bat for me. And we trusted each other. And the next thing we knew, I was walking into the doors of the Dean Witter Foundation next to Malcolm. And he sat down and he pitched this to them in a way that was so compelling, they couldn't say no. And he pulled the strings that he had. He trusted in me, and he was there for me. So what I'm saying to say, I'm here. That happened because somebody helped me, right? And that changed my world. That changed my life. You changed my life. Another person who has just stepped into my world is Beth, who believed in this larger project of connecting people with the world through nature journaling. And started to think of ways to facilitate, ways to help that reach more people, to make a larger impact on the world. I was working very, very provincially and locally. And she could see beyond that. And the result of that is not just the conference that you just participated in its fourth year, but the fruits of that, you're going to be the full reveal. Some of you already kind of figured this out. It's coming in a minute. But there's some just amazing stuff that she has made happen because she stood up and helped me. So again, Beth, thank you. So again, I was lucky and people helped me. And that motivates me to, in everything that I can do, to be more generous and to find ways to help other people. And I think that we're coming up with a really, really good idea of how to do that. The other thing that I realized when I was at Grandma's bedside is is that I wanted to be a daddy. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to fall so deeply in love that my world would shatter and rebuild itself into something else. And it's so much better than I ever could have possibly imagined. One of my greatest supports is Sibel Renault. And this team here, the Adventure Girls, Amelia and Carolyn, bold, creative, brilliant, strong nature journalers and conservationists who I am so proud to be your papa. So I've got this incredible, incredible support team. And so there's this nature journaling movement. It's growing and it's growing and it's growing. It started when I was with Carol at the California Academy of Sciences. I just had a little email list that I'd send out, and a few people would join me once a month. That went into a little bit of hiatus when I retreated to the mountains. But on coming back, I started teaching 7 free nature journaling workshops all around the San Francisco Bay Area and leading these monthly field trips. That was our first field trip where I thought, like, maybe I'll just put out an announcement and see if anybody wants to do this. I think it was 140 people. 140 people showed up. Fortunately, subsequent ones have not been as full, but it just sort of shows that there's a lot of people who are interested in doing this. And that grew throughout the San Francisco Bay Area. And then the pandemic happened. And instead of shutting it all down, we went online. And when that happened, it was amazing. From all over the world, we're now able to connect to people in all these different continents, all over the place. And people who were teachers were suddenly able to reach out and connect with audiences that they were never able to connect with before. And so I started thinking of, how can I help support this growing community? And so I had a website, and I started to make these sorts of resources on it. So we had our San Francisco Bay Area Nature Journal Club. And so I put up little instructions on how to start, and then built an interactive map where if you started a club, you had a little pin on the map, which people could click on and then find people in their area. And we're still sort of regularly, I just got a whole bunch more today that I haven't put on here. Way for people to find their local community of nature journaling, because doing this with other people around you is so much more powerful, right? And then I started looking around and trying to find more instructors, and created a list online of, here are all the people I know who are teaching classes online. So if you are teaching classes online, by the way, if you're teaching one on this list, we can get you there. But state by state, city by city in the United States, and country by country throughout the rest of the world, putting the contact information for other people who were teaching these sorts of resources. I also created a calendar where anybody who was teaching online could share their resources, share their classes, so that we could start to find out about all these other people. So I was kind of creating these little resources on my own website. I was also then teaching classes myself as part of this, with the help of Avea Moore. Everybody give it up for Avea. It turns out it's really hard to run these Zoom meetings by yourself. So being embedded in a community and having the support of somebody like Avea is incredibly helpful and powerful. And so this is just another example of how, it doesn't really work to do this by yourself. You've got to work together. And so that made me, start to think about, like, what can you do to kind of go beyond this? And this is, again, where Beth comes in. Because how many years ago did you secure the URL? So at least 2 years ago, she saw this coming, and I wasn't ready for it, and was only taking a few baby steps. But she saw this coming and helped sort of lay the groundworks and the logistics. And it is my delight to announce to all of you and all of you this evening the birth of the Wild Wonder Foundation. We're going to have so much fun with this. We are going to have so much fun for this. This is a platform from which we can launch a whole bunch of really, really good stuff. So here's the general mission of this. So we're dedicated to encouraging nature connection and conservation. That's where that came from, right? Through attention, through curiosity, art, science, community. So that community, an essential part of it. And what I'd like to do is just kind of go into this and kind of unpack some of these ideas. Because with this framework, I think we've got the essentials of really making a difference in this world and being able to help each other and be able to do something that is really important. So here are a list of things that have happened already, places we can go. And so yeah, we just had that wonderful conference. Carol Tang at the Children's Creativity Museum, we created this series of 40 videos. So a classroom teacher could do one each week with their students. And at the end of the year, their students have the full suite of skills of a nature journaler. All right. In short nugget, bite-sized pieces. All sorts of online resources. And starting to kind of get these things together, sort of resources that I want to help practitioners. So the people who want to know how to do nature journaling, all right? How do we support those people? How do we also support the mentors who help those practitioners? And also, how do we help the practitioners support the mentors? How do we help those mentors support the practitioners? And also, we want to help any nature journal club that's getting going anywhere, help it find its community and be able to find its community and be able to go play together, because it is so much fun to play together. But now look at this. So first of all, here's this full list of things. I want to first bring your attention to the very bottom, right? It's anything else that we agree is a good idea, right? And so we can do so much better at making the resources to help the practitioners find the mentors and help those practitioners support the mentors. This whole idea of being a patron is something that is kind of increasingly lost in our culture. Think of we're really supporting each other, and get that to be sort of a fundamental part of the ethic of this community. How can we support our teachers? How can we support anybody who wants to develop these skills? This is a fun one. We are going to be going to, is this dying? Is there? Hello? All right, here we go. New microphone. This one's cool. All right. In February, we are going to Tanzania. A group of nature journalists are going to go exploring in Tanzania. All right. It's going to be fun. But here's what we're also going to do, because we're going to go to an orphanage and bring a whole bunch of nature journaling supplies. And we are going to teach the kids there, spend a day teaching those kids how do you do nature journaling. And the next day we're showing up with buses, and we are bringing all those kids from the orphanage to Tarangire for their first time to visit their own national park. And then looking at follow-up activities to help those students, those kids, continue to engage in nature journaling after we're gone. And it's interesting because in Tanzania, being a nature drawer is actually a really useful career move. There's a lot of people who create artwork for the tourist trade, and the more experience those kids get in looking at and rendering what they see, they're not just developing a love and appreciation for nature in their backyard, motivating them to be better stewards of that, but also to be able to support their own family. So we want to look at new and improved ways of allowing us to communicate and connect with each other online and be able to share things in ways that more people feel comfortable engaging with. We want to get nature journaling regional conferences around the country and around the world where people can come together and do this together. Meeting online is wonderful. Being together is a completely different experience and so powerful. And we want to help organize these local and regional experiences. We want to help our mentors and teachers get better. We want to collect the best practices and share them widely. So if one person figures out a really great way to do something online or in person, things that really work, we want to get this shared. There's a wonderful ethic that is growing in the community of sort of resources and ideas that we come up sort of with being open source. And we want to be sort of encourage people to take these best ideas and be able to make more of that. And then look at this one. Won't that be fun? Right? I mean, looking at through other people's journals is so much fun. What if you could regularly kind of look through all sorts of inspiring journal elements from people all over the world and get articles written by our mentors to kind of help us sort of develop some of these best practices. We'll create a log, an archive of these practices in the words of the people who are doing it. Also, what if we could create a system for when we find people who are really motivated and really inspired, doing beautiful things, how can we help support them financially as well? I'm thinking of the way that Malcolm stood up and supported me. And that's in the back of my head. I want to be able to do that for other people. And I'll just sort of give you an example. You're familiar with our friend Marley Pfeiffer. All right. Marley co-led a trip to the Galapagos and the Ecuadorian rainforest with me. I got COVID, dropped out of the trip, and he took over from there. After the group returned home,
Marley remained in the Galapagos because he said, I wonder what I can do to connect people in this community with nature in their own backyard through nature journaling. And this is what he has done so far without any support. Right? So he has taught every teacher in all the public schools in the Galapagos Islands classes on how to do nature journaling. So he got through to every teacher. And then he's also doing all sorts of trainings with all sorts of other interest groups. I want to point out a few things that are really interesting on this smorgasbord of stuff that he's been doing. Again, this is just Marley out there, kind of like, gosh, this is what I want to do next, and this is what I want to do next. I see this and it makes me think like, I want to find a way to facilitate somebody like this for doing all these crazy, cool things. So he's working with a group of nonprofit organizations to, what if we could get the tour boats that bring people to the Galapagos Islands, when they're not doing these tours, to take groups of school children out to the islands for an immersive experience. They haven't been out to those islands, just like those kids who haven't been to Tarangire, right? And what if when they're out there, part of that experience, you kind of train them in nature journaling. So when they're out there, they're able to make the most of that experience. Right? It's a beautiful idea that really brings the community together. So this is an example of the sort of project that I would love for us to be able to get behind. And there's all sorts of other beautiful things that we could help facilitate. So that's where, just kind of going back to this, yes, anything else that we agree upon is a great idea. And what we want to do is we need your help. We want your participation. We want your support and your suggestions, right? Because let's find out what amazing stuff we can make happen. And that is an incredibly exciting opportunity. So the founding principles, again, of our organization: attention, curiosity, art, science, and community. I want to just briefly explore each of these and kind of unpack why I think this is such a useful foundation for our foundation. That's for you, Amelia. All right. So let's first talk about focusing our attention. What are we talking about here? When we focus our attention, powerful things happen. First, it's something that we're learning in this community is that these are fundamental skills. It's not a gift that some people are like, you're a great observer. We can train ourselves to do that through these practices of nature journaling. So we can train ourselves to do that. The act of attention itself, I think, is one of the most critical things we have to teach people. Because attention, sustained, compassionate attention, is the act of love. When you give your full attention to another person, perhaps your child, your partner, or a place, that attention connects you with them in a way that changes you and changes them. So again, by teaching, we want to find some way to help people fall in love with the natural world. Teach them how to pay attention to the natural world, because attention is love. And that's a critical principle that I think is so important. And you can teach people how to pay attention. And the toolkit for this, the nature journal itself, is such a wonderful way to do that. So in that, You find some phenomenon that catches your attention, and you let that sort of pull you into the gravity well of its sort of orbit of wonder. And as you drop down in that, using this idea of kind of you notice something, it gets into your brain. If you just let it sit there for a second, it's going to slip out. But if you can get it onto paper, that is going to bind you to that experience in a profoundly different way. So this idea goes from your eye to your brain and then onto your paper. And then you've got that experience in a fundamentally different way than if you're just walking around and observing. So this process of journaling itself is key to the activity of attention. Our second pillar of our foundation is our curiosity. Yes. Yes. Mad points, if you recognize this character. I've always wanted to be like this when I'm out there with my nature journaling, because I've always got too few hands, right? Because you need, like, how are you going to hold your binoculars and your pencil and your journal at the same time? You've been there? Exactly. It's like, all right. So, so to kind of harness our inner tardigrade, deliberate curiosity is the key here. So not just going like, oh, I'm going to be curious about something, but curiosity as something that you can actively do. And you can train yourself to get better at it. Fiona is the master of this. Beth's daughter, Fiona, I met her when she was 13. She's just gone into college now. She has revolutionized the way that this community asks questions. And kind of key to that is that you're going to not just look around and kind of, I know what that bird is, I know what that bird is, I know what that plant is, but you're seeking out those things that you don't know. And that's actually a good thing. You find these things that you don't know. And she has this practice where she just starts with the most obvious kind of easy questions and gets those and writes those down, again, out of your brain and onto the paper. And then those daisy chain and those spread out into all sorts of other beautiful, richer questions. But the really rich questions hide behind our first set of questions. So what we're doing is we're going for the question behind the question. Right? And when you do that, you want to sort of be aware of the world's going to offer you these little surprises when you go like, right? That little funny feeling, right? That's that you get that feeling when you are perceiving something that is different than the way you expect things to be. And when you lean into those moments, that's the opportunity to learn. So the little surprises in the world around us, that's a physiological signal, that little like, right? That's your body physiologically telling you that there's something about the way that you think that the world is that is different than the way it actually is, right? And if we lean into those moments, we have an opportunity to come out the other side different, changed, with a more accurate understanding of what's happening in the world. So curiosity is a critical pillar of this. The next piece of this is that we are using art not so much as a presentation piece, but as a tool for thinking. So art is a thinking tool. And in this, we're trying to not get wrapped around, I have to make pretty pictures, but instead we're looking at what can I learn by using art in this situation. The more that you do that, kind of an interesting thing happens. If you end up making a lot of pictures of something, you end up getting better and better at drawing. Anything that you rinse and repeat, you're going to get better and better and better at it. So by putting in more pencil miles, you will develop these skills. So it turns out being a visual thinker, right? And having some visual literacy really helps you think and get more pleasure out of encountering things around you. It just makes it easier to notice something and get it down on that paper. And that relationship between what you're thinking about, the object, what's happening on the paper, that's bouncing into your brain. You're not getting as stuck with the mechanics of it. The more that we can kind of lubricate that, the easier this kind of thinking becomes. So what we're really doing is fundamentally teaching people how to think with pictures. And that is incredibly powerful. Something that is also really important with this is that mentors really help, because anytime you are developing new skills, having a coach helps. And for everybody, having a coach helps. It doesn't matter what level you are at. Serena Williams has a coach, right? She's really good, and she has a coach, right? And the reason is that often if we don't have a coach, we don't notice the little things that we're doing that are kind of holding us back. But somebody else looking at that, right? And this can be peer-to-peer coaching. You can also find somebody who inspires you to coach you. And so what we want to do is to help people find those coaches and help the coaches find those audiences that want to work with them. Another pillar, this one's for you, right? So another pillar of this is science. Science is an incredibly useful way of thinking. It is not the only way of thinking, but it's an incredibly useful tool to open ourselves to the world. And as we do that, kind of what it enables us to do when we get curious about something, it allows us to follow that. We've kind of come up with this term of spelunking down rabbit holes. But that's something that you actually end up looking for. You're looking for these little phenomena that you don't understand and looking for opportunities to drop down that hole. We've kind of written some of the steps here. Asking questions, the why and the could it be's. These are questions that we can follow up with using practices of science, either directly observing or learning how do I make inferences about things. And finally, as we are developing those answers, it's a great opportunity to educate people about the process of science and what science is and what science isn't, and how we can make our explanations, but then hold those with a humility. Scientists aren't about proving things around them, right? So it's not that we're going to prove something through our science, but we can say that here's an idea that is strongly supported by the evidence. And the idea in science that you're going to accept an explanation in proportion to the strength of the evidence for it is actually a revolutionary way of thinking. So again, accepting an explanation in proportion to the strength of the evidence. So this is a great way to also teach science literacy to our community. And if I led with, let's go do a science literacy program, right? There would be a lot of people, because they don't connect with science, right? They would say, that's not for me, right? But in this context, it is part of your toolkit of fun to help you put on your little headlamp and dive down that rabbit hole. And the next piece is thinking about our community together. All right, we sort of started with this idea, and I want to come back to it. Again, I got where I am because people helped me. Before the pandemic, the work that I was doing was supported by donations from people who liked the work that I was doing. When the pandemic hit and I went fully online and stopped my live classes, there was an incredible swell of support from the people who made donations on my website. And it helped get me and my family through that first terrible year. And I will never forget that. Thank you, all my patrons out there. The donations that you made a huge difference to me. So that's how one of the ways that you helped me. I want to think about how can I, as a coach or a mentor, how can I support people who are developing these skills? How can I support other people who are also stepping forward in the community as teachers? We're not in competition with each other. Everybody has their own flavor of this that they can bring. You saw all those different teachers at Wild Wonder. Everybody's got a little bit of a different angle on it, and none of us are right, because there isn't a right about this. But if you're able to look at all those different ways of doing it, you'll find something that you really connect with. So how can I help support practitioners? How can I support other growing leaders in our community? How can I help other people in our community also support those mentors? So it goes both ways. How can we help the mentors support practitioners? How can we support practitioners in supporting those mentors? How can we help somebody take the step from being a practitioner to really realizing that I've got also something to share in this community and become a mentor themselves and teach and share that with others? One of the things that you're going to find is in learning any skill, if you try to teach this to anyone, it really dramatically improves your own understanding and your own ability to do whatever that craft is. So we really want to encourage more people, if you feel comfortable doing that, to step into that space. Again, we're encouraging you to do that. We want you to do that. We're not in competition with each other. And then there's a few kind of basic principles of this growing community. The one I've got at the top for me is the most important. This community so far has grown up around an ethic of kindness. And if that idea sinks into the way which we interact with each other, this is going to be a beautiful community. We are going to be able to do so much more together if we are going into it with this idea in our head of kindness and looking for opportunities to help other people and being willing to ask for help, right? And make it a safe place for all of us to grow in that way. The final piece of this community is that if we all have a common understanding that through the work that we do, we're physically changing the shape and the structure of our brains, that these are skills that we can learn, and it's not about having a gift or not having a gift, but that we can actually learn to do this. And the more of us that can get up there and reinforce it, like, look, this was me 4 years ago. This is me now. This was me 1 year ago. This is me now. And share those stories. We're going to demystify this whole art thing and make it so much more accessible to everyone. We can demystify. Some people believe, like, I'm not a curious person. But I wasn't asking as good questions just a few years ago when Fiona upped her game of how she was really thinking about questions and explained that to me. It revolutionized the way I ask questions. And I'm a grown-up, and I've been doing this for a long time. And I learned a ton from that experience. I want to can you imagine if more people in this community were sharing and cross-fertilizing each other with our best ideas and our best intentions? Amazing things are going to happen. The final piece is that from this community of love, from this community that has fallen so deeply in love with the natural world. All right? This process is what gives us the motivation and the courage to stand up and become protectors and stewards and committed to conservation of this planet. The time to do that is absolutely now. But if I lead with trying to motivate you to join me in that, with stories that fill you with fear and dread, you are going to lock me out, because those possibilities are too scary for any of us to really deeply grapple with. And we need to back away from that. But if I lead with helping people learn to fall in love with this world, we protect what we love. And so this whole process is to lead us to become stewards of the world around us. There are several different ways to do this. One is just to go out yourself and get your nature journaling on. And if you then turn around and you share your stories with other people, you might spark somebody else to give this a try and to fall in love with the world. If you step forward as a teacher and make it easier for other people to develop this skill set, you're making it easier for them to fall in love with the world and helping them be able to take the next step to become a steward, to protect and conserve the natural world around us. If you are working in a conservation organization, Ann Chadwick from Point Blue Conservation Sciences is in the room with us tonight. She is deeply involved in conservation of natural systems, and is very aware of losses and tragedies. That work is a burden. That work is really hard to do. And the best way that we can kind of keep Anne in the game is by helping facilitate you to be able to kind of go out and fall in love with the world again, and to connect with other people loving on it in the same way. So if there is a conservation organization near you, perhaps you could offer to lead part of their community in nature. Perhaps nature journaling could become part of the programs of that community. I was just talking with Anne about the possibility of an artist in residence program at Point Blue. All right. So, and Anne, by the way, so respect the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for that. So can we help local conservation groups get their message out, either by sharing the visual recordings we make of what's going on? We can share their work in a visual way that people will react to, or to help take care of their team by teaching them how to fall more deeply in love with the world through nature journaling. And also perhaps for yourself, to keep you in the game, to let this be something that you regularly kind of go out and you water your own seeds so that we don't get overwhelmed. The final piece of that is that the more that we work together, the more effective and more powerful we're going to be. So the more that we're intentionally making links and connections between, when we talked about building the community and the web between us, right? That's something that when we are struggling over here and we need to work together, if this network is strong, we're going to be so much more powerful and ready to make effective action together. And we're motivated by the driving force of love. And that will make a difference. So this evening, I want to invite you to join us on this mission, to become part of this in whatever way you feel comfortable. All right? We are encouraging people to step forward as local leaders, as participants, or if you want to get involved on a larger level, helping kind of organize this sort of larger crazy show. There are many ways to get involved with this, to help local mentors. If there's somebody that is really supporting you in your work, figuring out how can we make this sustainable for those individuals who are doing this work. That is going to be incredibly powerful. And so through the process of paying attention, to the natural world around you, we create the seeds and we water the seeds that are going to allow us to step forward as the leaders in conservation, the community of conservation that can make a beautiful difference on this earth. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I would love to get some feedback from you and for us to start brainstorming right now, right? Questions, comments, thoughts, and ideas. We are going to be taking some questions from the room. We're also going to be the people on our online audience. There are ways for you to check in and to ask questions. We'll be connecting with you and asking some of those questions from our online community and piping them here into the room with us. Let's start with some questions from the room. Does anybody have any thoughts, comments, questions, or ideas about what the potential of an idea like this? We'll bring you a microphone.
Thank you. So I'm traveling to India next month or maybe the month after, and I saw that there is not a pin on India. And I would love to do that. So if all of you can support me, I don't know where to begin, but I'm happy to take other people on this journey that you have taken me on. So thank you.
We would love to help you to make the first of many pins in India. I know that there are a number of people on the continent who are really actively nature journaling to help these people come together and celebrate this together. I would love to work with you on that. Absolutely. Thank you. Let's give it up for Ann Chadwick from Point Blue Conservation Science.
Thank you. you so much, Jack, for all your support and for this whole community. So happy to be part of it and looking forward to the great things we can do together. But my question is, for people who want to support this foundation, how do they support it? How do we get involved? How can we make it as good as it can be?
The question is, how can we get involved? Beth has created an amazing website. And Brooke, stand up. Brooke, all right. Brooke, come on up, Brooke. Now, and Roseanne, and you did a lot of the web design on this, right? Yes. So the website is stunning and useful, and we're going to be adding all sorts of additional functionality into it. Do you want to tell us a little about where they can find it and what can happen there?
They can find it at Wild Wonder Foundation. You can go to wildwonderfoundation.org. We have resources for folks. We'll be adding to those as well. We have about our community. We also have a lot of information just about the foundation itself, and as that continues to grow. I know Beth can say a lot more about that than I can, though.
Right, yeah, and also right now we're linking to some of those resources that I created on my website, like the community calendar, but a lot of that functionality is going to be moving over there and going to be expanding to make those sorts of resources, make it really, really easy for people to find people, clubs, resources near them. And also you're able to make donations through that website. So when you go there, you're able to make contributions to the sort of projects that we're involved with. So let's now jump over to our online audience. Hey there, everybody. All right, so stand here. Oh, stand here, pointing this way. Oh, stand here. All right, I'm going to stand over here. All right, and so our first question, good to see you all. Thank you so much for joining us this evening or this morning. So who's up first with our first question?
We're going to have Beth Ann come on first.
Hi from Australia. Amazing, Jack. Firstly, Jack, I want to say congratulations, and Beth and Roseanne and everyone behind this project. It's an amazing initiative, and I think it's going to be a really powerful way of bringing new groups of people to nature journaling that can benefit from this powerful practice. And I'm so grateful for the technology that allows us to connect across the world in this way. I'd love to say to the lady who asked about India, there's a lot of nature journalers journaling in India at the moment. I'd love to connect you with some of the networks that I have there. But as we use this technology to expand like this, connecting across the world in different countries, I feel like we're coming up against an amazing frontier and that is a language frontier. And at the moment, most of the resources and videos and books are in English. And I love that your book is now available in Spanish and Japanese, I believe, and maybe other languages. I think this is powerful. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on ways the foundation can support those who are super keen to develop nature journaling resources and classes and networks in languages other than English.
Oh, absolutely. So Beth Ann, by the way, is the brain and the work behind International Nature Journaling Week. Yay for Beth Ann. Right. And also as part of this idea, any way that we can be of help and support to you, we want to play. What about getting more resources in different languages? I have tried to create, for instance, on my web page and in my store, I've got some of these sort of, I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of cards, and getting those translated into different languages. On my own, I've been able to do a little. But by being connected into a larger network of this community, we're going to be able to do so much more. And I think that is absolutely critical. I think it is really, really important. And so books and other online materials I think one of the things we really ought to look at is going forward is plans for how do we create resources, and then how do we disseminate those resources to people who can use them? How can we try to make those accessible in the languages that people are using? I absolutely agree with you. It's really, really important, and it's something where only the surface of that has been scratched. Currently, some of the books that I've written have been translated into other languages, but that is usually based on when a publisher finds that there's an economic need to kind of, sort of an economic market there. But if we're kind of working together, we'd be able to do some things like, I know that when Malcolm was in charge of Heyday, there was sometimes a project that he would do that wasn't going to make a lot of money, but he did it because it was beautiful, and he did it because it was important. And respect. I would also, now that Roseanne is on the screen, by the way, I am loving that chapeau. Roseanne Hansen is the other swing player behind this foundation. She has had experience in how to do all the paperwork and the logistics to create a nonprofit organization. And she did all of that extensive work, and also a lot of our strategic planning from the start. She has been involved in this. And Roseanne, we are really, really grateful to you. The fruits of your labor and your work is unrolled tonight, and this would not have happened without that dedication. Thank you so much.
Well, it's because of the whole team, everyone making it all happen. It's just been incredible.
All right. We're now going to jump for another question from the room here, and then we'll go for another question from our online audience. Would anybody like to ask a question? Question or comment? Actually, let's jump to our online audience while we have more time to think.
Okay, well, Lena's going to bring in some of our other online people who can't come on the screen, but we have comments and questions. So she's going to read a few.
Yep, we can start with a YouTube question that we have here that kind of goes along with what we've been discussing already. How can we help bring more diversity and representation into nature journaling, or uplift the voices of underrepresented groups?
Absolutely. Beth Ann was talking about what languages do we want to reach. How do we make this something that is accessible to everyone, where everyone feels welcome, where people who are underrepresented who are not usually seen in arts or science or in outdoor activities feel welcomed in our community and empowered. It is not going to happen if we assume that it will take care of itself. We need to be deliberate about reaching out and making connections, and respectful in how we do that. We need to be ready to listen to the voices of other people, because we cannot just assume that we know the answers that will make things work for everyone else. And we're going to need participation from partners who are passionate about this. We have a number of those people already in our community, and we invite more. And if from the start we proceed with the full intention of having this be something that is for everyone, and knowing that that means that we're not just going to be laissez-faire about it, but we're going to do direct work to invite and welcome and encourage people who may not immediately look around the community and say, I don't really see a lot of people like me, perhaps this isn't for me. we need to be deliberate about that. We should also have part of our planning be to strategically address this from the start. And fortunately, we are now standing at the start. So we invite this conversation and are committed to seeing where that takes us.
Excellent. Do we have time for one more question?
Thank you.
Let's see if the live audience has a question, and then Ray Bonto will be next.
Avea. So Avea is also just an incredible player in our community. She has, just as Fiona has helped us all think more critically about questions, Avea has brought stewardship to the table in a way that has made it one of the fundamental platforms, pieces of our platform. So Avea, that's on you.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be helping out in whatever way possible as this goes forward. This is on sort of, this connects, I think, to both languages and to diversity, but are there also plans in place to help with people who might have accessibility challenges in terms of mobility? Because I think it's not just for accessing nature journaling, it's also for accessing nature. And it's a conversation I think that a lot of us have been talking about it a bit at a time, but this is a sort of thing I think that we really need to dedicate a bigger conversation to so that we can all unite on this, not just people who have the accessibility challenges, but everybody, for all of our community. And so I just hope that this will be an ongoing discussion as well within the foundation. And thank you.
Avea, you are deeply wise. Absolutely. This needs to be something, and I think that what is something that's wonderful about nature journaling is that for people with accessibility, with mobility issues, this is something that is a very doable thing if we intentionally work to kind of lower, there's just a few barriers to what we're doing, but you can, functionally, how do I do this? Thinking about in the planning of when we have trips, where we have trips. Some may be in places that are not accessible. What are places where we can deliberately make trips that are accessible to invite people in our community for whom mobility is difficult, or elders in our community who don't get around as easily as they used to. Those elders have deep wisdom that we need to help guide our community. So we should be intentionally reaching out to them and trying to figure out how can we make things really work for you. I agree with you. We want this to be something where we want to get everybody involved, and looking at any barriers to that. Let's get a critical mass of people together coming up with good ideas and problem solving together. So again, we are inviting participation in the formation of this community, and watching our website is going to be, we'll probably develop an informational newsletter to kind of get the word out about what we're doing. We're going to be, developing teams to tackle some of these problems. And perhaps let's not even frame it that way. We're going to be developing teams to go out and joyfully play with these conundrums and creatively solve them. Thank you. Another question from our community online.
Yes, Ray Bonto, would you like to ask your question or make a comment?
Hi there.
Unmute.
Hello, London.
Hi there. Hello everyone. Amazing tech. So I don't know if this is a great question, but I just wanted to know, like, how did you bring so many people together? Like, how? And yeah, that's basically.
All right. So you're asking, how can we bring all these people together?
No, he asked how you came to have this incredible upwelling of support and people to come together to make this happen.
Oh, that's a really interesting question, Raybanto. I don't know exactly why. By the way, it's great to see you. Raybanto has been a regular participant in our online class courses all the way from London, and is an incredibly good observer of nature and urban wildlife. I love your pigeon drawings. But the reason I think so many people are gravitating to this is because it's a really good idea, right? I think it is authentically a really good idea, and you kind of like, yeah, that sort of makes sense. It's not a stretch. It's really useful. It's really practical. It's fun, and it makes you feel good. It works. It's a great idea. So I think people want to get involved because of that. Like when I've presented this in schools, I've been told sometimes that, oh, you're going into this school, the students in this school, like, oh, they don't. This is going to be just, oh, you can't really reach these kids. But if you can show them authentically what's going on with this, they're like, oh, huh, that's a good idea. Let's go give that a try, because it works and it makes sense. So my guess is what, let me bring in my co-conspirator Avea, who seems to have an idea on this as well. Yes, Avea.
My other idea on this, mind you, I'm a bit biased. I think it's also because we really, really like Jack. And for the reason why that is, it's because it is really, really rare in today's world to meet somebody who is openly kind to other people. Most people, you wind up having to dig layers and to build trust in order to get to see their soft center, and Jack is kind to you from the very start. As a result, he inspires the rest of us to be openly kind like that too, and to not hide. And that we don't have to see kindness as being a weakness in the world, because that's Jack's greatest strength, is his beautiful kindness that he's shown everybody here. And when you, oh, wait, I'm gonna hug you first, okay. I mean that. Because he's genuine. You know, that's another rare thing, is to have somebody who is genuine. Jack is genuinely a happy person, but if he's having a hard day, he's genuine. If Jack had a question or if he struggled, he's genuine. And he encourages all of us to be that genuine. And so, okay, this is a quote that a lot of people probably use, the whole be the change you wish to see in the world. That's not a cliche when it comes to Jack. He genuinely a lot of people here probably think, what would Jack do? Because he embodies what it means to grow, to be kind, to be open, to be humble, to be what we think of when we think of that's what a good human being does. And thank you for that, Jack. That's why we're here. That's why so many of us are here.
You got my back. I know. And it's a good idea. Is there another question from the room? David.
Yeah, you touched on education, your work in schools. Before I mention that, I just wanted to say you're so incredibly inspiring, and it's been a joy to see you grow from, well, I knew you like 20 years ago, whatever, and when you're maybe not quite so well known, but even that first nature back in the Silmar, I guess 3 years ago, and just to see the way you've grown exponentially, these, I was going to say performance, the way you share your wisdom and your insights is just so amazing. But, I'm not an educator. I just help people learn about nature. But, your work, I think your nature journaling books and classes should be in every single school, from kindergarten through high school, through college, whatever, here, across the country, across the world. Got to start small before the biggest journey starts with the smallest steps, I'm sure. But, it's like every 4 years we vote on the superintendent of school, whatever that position is in Sacramento. I don't know what that guy or gal does, but it seems that, we want to create conservation ethic and young people being aware of nature awareness, exploration. It can start on a small level, but it'll be great to start on the higher level as well. So let's get some superintendents of schools educated and aware, and so they can start from the top down, not have to have bigger impacts for getting your work and nature journaling to as great a number of people as possible.
Thank you. David, for the record, you are an amazing educator and an incredible naturalist. And so much respect for what you do also for connecting people, helping people connect the links between their sort of love of nature and conservation. I agree with you that getting these resources into schools, adopted in part of curriculum, making it easy for teachers, finding forms of teacher support. A lot of that is already happening at the grassroots level. We have folks from the Exploratorium here with us, and the Children's Discovery Museum, which are both doing programs in helping people use nature journaling to improve science education. And we would love to partner with you and other educational organizations to, from the ground up, also find ways. We have these every week. We do an educators forum. We have a rolling discussion with online with educators about sort of best practices for using nature journaling in education. It would also be, I love your idea about kind of also looking at a top-down approach as well. And because again, this is, for when you're thinking about science education, here in the state of California, we've adopted the next generation science standards. And ideas such as asking questions, making arguments from evidence around you, collecting that evidence, analyzing it, sort of figuring out how do you go about figuring stuff out? How do you design experiments? Those are all really important parts of the new objectives for science education. And nature journaling does that very authentically. You're not having to kind of twist it to kind of make it fit into that box. If you think about the difference between a scientist and a lab technician, right? Think about what is in their hand. The lab tech has a worksheet. The lab tech has some form that somebody else has already filled out. The scientist has a journal. So we're currently giving all of our students worksheets. We need to put the journal in their hands. If we want them to think like scientists, let's train them to act like scientists and then they'll be scientists. Yeah. Yes.
Not a question, but a comment. And I want to plus 100 what you just said, that to me, I've discovered that nature journaling is not about just learning about nature. To me, it's been a way of life. And it's taught me how to approach the unknown, because through nature, I have validated that you can approach something that you do not know about at all with curiosity that does not necessarily come naturally, and you have to force it. And I think it's helped me at work think about, this is a very difficult problem. I am absolutely terrified of approaching it. But if I break it down into, it reminds me of, it makes me wonder, and like what I see, it teaches you to work better. It's helped me approach therapy, where I talk to my therapists and I say, hey, this is what I'm feeling. I notice, I wonder, and it reminds me of, and I think I agree that it's something that I wish I had learned when I was a little child, because all of these years would have become so much easier. But I am thankful and grateful to this community that I discovered this now. And yeah, it's been a life changer.
Thank you so much. You know, I agree that we're talking about fundamental critical thinking skills, fundamental life skills. It works. It's useful. It's an incredibly useful tool for social, emotional sorts of things, for thinking about history, the past, science, ourselves, our families, our communities, solving problems. We think better when we get it out of here and we get it onto paper. And we have time for one more question from the online group. Hey there, team. Hey, again, thank you all for being here. I am really grateful to have you with us. Hello, and thank you all.
And don't forget, there are hundreds of people watching behind us. So hello from everybody that they can't all be in the room with you, but they're there in spirit. So Rebecca's going to speak, and then I'll just end after Rebecca.
Everyone, can you guys hear me? Okay, I just want to say something. As someone who's had the opportunity to kind of start to become a leader in this community, and I kind of had an inkling that something was coming. I suspected what the announcement might be, but Jack, what you just presented is so much more than I ever expected. And when I went to college to study conservation, I had in my mind that my personal life mission is to help conserve biodiversity and connect people to nature. And it can be hard to find ways to do that and find that career path and make it happen. And you just said the nature connection and conservation through attention, curiosity, all these things. Like, it's spot on to what the world needs right now. And yeah, and I just want to say that finding this community during the pandemic, I think, has changed my life. And I think it's going to change a lot more people's lives. And so I just want to say thank you to Jack and to the whole team and everybody here. And I've literally been like tearing up and shaking watching this. And yeah, so my question was basically just how do we get involved, and especially as educators, and but for everybody. And I am excited to have more conversations about that and to see where this goes.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. For those of you who have not met Rebecca Rolnick, she's an amazing thought leader in our community. She has really helped us think about how to make the most of the words that we use. She is the brain and energy behind Writing Workshop Wednesdays and Restoration, and whatever other projects you want to hatch, we want to support. You are absolutely gentle, kind, brilliant, and a good force in this community. Thank you so much for what you have done for us so far, and we really look forward to working with you more. So at the start, there's going to be we're going to be kind of gathering ideas, and very often the starts of things are a little bit bumpy because we don't want to tamp down anybody's enthusiasm, but our ability to be kind of organized and intentional will be challenged, because I'm hoping that we're going to have so many people who want to play that there's going to be a little bit of chaos. Bear with us through that. We'll be organizing through that chaos and really trying to empower people's voices to come forward. Through our newsletter, we're going to be kind of reaching out sort of different sort of stages and of organizing things, probably developing teams who will kind of take on different challenges. And then we're also going to be fundraising to create support for these projects, initiatives, mentors and leaders who are making things happen. But we definitely want you to be a part of that. We want to encourage people that I think that this is a platform. I think there's a wide appeal, and we really do want people to get involved. That can be organizing people locally, getting your own nature journal club going and started. And we're going to be looking for, in communication with those people about what can we do to support you the best. We are going to be looking at, how can we develop these different ideas right at the start. My hunch is that there'll be a few little initiatives that we launch and they're not going to work. And remember, mistakes are okay. That's not going to derail us. We're going to try also, though, because we've got some really good. I have probably a tendency to go like, yes, let's do everything at the start, right? But fortunately, there are cooler heads in the room who are going to help us kind of go a little bit more progressively forward, and good things will result. But we really want to play with you and you, right? And I would invite you to help us figure that out. And again, thank you so much for what you have gifted with this community with so far. We really are looking forward to engaging you more about how we can make these things happen. Fortunately, we have a team. We have a community. We are already supporting each other, and that will only grow. Let's build the network of connections and relationships between us. I want to encourage people to get to know other people in the group, make friendships within this community, and that will make us stronger. I want to encourage you, if you have a light, we want to let that forward, and want to give you the opportunity to share that. So more details to come,
And I'm so excited. I have chills on my spine right now and the hairs standing up on the back of my neck. I feel that together, because of the work that Roseanne and Beth and Brooke and Mama and that are this community is doing, we're going to be able to do some absolutely beautiful stuff. And I'm so excited about being there with you. Thank you all, and thank you for coming, and happy Wild Wonder. Let's give our attention to Roseanne. Incredibly good with practical things and logistics, as you've seen. Like, by the way, Wild Wonder rocked. Yeah. Beth, stand too. Thank you, folks, so much. All right. So we've got some final announcements.
Just thank you, Jack. The online community is so happy to be here. I want to shout out to Marley, who is in Central America, holding down the fort for us on YouTube. So thank you, everyone. Beth, wish we could be there. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to this team who made it happen, everybody. Thank you.
And good night, everyone.
Can we speak? I have no idea. Can you hear me? No. Yeah? Thank you.
I hear you.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
We're still on YouTube, so bye.
Cool.
See you guys later. Bye.
Bye.